Hello. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me. We're going to continue today with the theme from the last conversation, and it is the simplicity of truth, the sheer simplicity of what we've always known. And it is that we're so eager to overlook. We're prone to nod our heads in a sense and say, okay, well, that makes sense when viewed in the context of a specialized video like this one, where we're going through the text of A Course in Miracles and talking about these ideas. It makes sense in this context. And then when we go forth and do life, we re-engage in our habitual tendencies, and we attempt to hide away from truth. I don't know how often you think about it this way, but I invite you to give what we're going to talk about today some very serious consideration. Because you're here for a reason. What exactly that happens to be, I both do and do not know. I don't know what has brought you here. I don't know if you are a student of A Course in Miracles, and if you are, whether you're new or whether you've been a student of this material for 30 years or more, or anywhere in between. I don't know what brought you to this YouTube channel, and perhaps you're not a student of A Course in Miracles. You're still most welcome. There's something that brought you here. So I certainly invite you to stick around and learn what that actually is. You'll know it when you hear it, for sure. So those are the things that I don't know. What I do know is you want the peace of God. That's why you're really here. That's why any of us at all is really even interested in spirituality, because there are plenty of other things we can engage ourselves in here in the world. And well, we do that all of the time. Yet at some point, you have heard the call of our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, and you have answered. This call goes out to all of us all of the time. It's a call to awaken, quite frankly. It's a call to accept truth just as it is and set aside all of the obstacles and blockages to our awareness of truth. We're covering our eyes. I like to use the image of a veil, which obscures our sight, but it's hiding behind a wall. It's putting up some kind of a barrier. And all, all of spiritual practice is the removal of this barrier. It is. And that applies no matter what the tradition. A Course in Miracles just happens to mention this over and over again, and it happens to harp on it, if you want to call it that, over and over again, to the extent where people have written complaints on social media and spoken complaints verbally that this course is so long, it says the same thing over and over and over and over. Yeah, actually, it does. But what we're invited to do is relax and trust the guidance of our inner teacher here. And it says the same things over and over and over again because Jesus, who dictated this course, knows exactly what he's doing. Of course he does. As adult learners, we need to hear things in different ways. If you've ever been involved in teaching or training here in the world, you'll know that we need to give things to adult learners in many different ways and in many different media so that they're more prone to get it. Audio, video, written form, reading something online, a tangible physical book that you can touch with your hands and physically turn the pages, right? Many of us are kinesthetic learners as well as visual. So there's something in that for everyone. Now, the repetition of ideas is necessary for precisely the same reason that we're having this conversation in the first place. We're all stubborn. If we were readily willing to accept truth just as it is, this conversation would not be happening. Certainly it would not. It would not be necessary. And this pixelated image on your screen well, that appears to be talking to you right now wouldn't be here. But we need this repetition because of our ingrained stubbornness, which we're invited to let go of a piece at a time. What we find so difficult to accept is what we've always known. So let's get into some of this sheer simplicity, disarming simplicity, which, by the way, is the point. Disarm, drop the obstacles, lift the veil. You don't need any defenses. We're very skeptical here in the world, and to the extent that you're experiencing skepticism and questioning, keep questioning. I don't know. I don't know if you expected to hear that. If you've seen these videos before, then clearly you do, because this is one of the repeated themes. But skepticism is most welcome. Questions are most welcome on the path. And why wouldn't they be? Spirituality is, in and of itself, a deep process of self inquiry. It is. So, of course, questions are a part of it. Now, what I want to invite you to do is keep questioning. You may be questioning the truth and veracity of the pixelated image on your screen. It's only assembled, after all, in in the pattern of dots that make it look like a middle-aged man from Arizona. That's not who's speaking to you. When something lands, of course, it's your inner teacher. This is simply the communication medium, and this material right here is simply the communication device. You're welcome to question the truth and veracity of the communication device. You're welcome to question the truth and veracity of this course itself, but I want you to keep going. Don't stop the questioning until you've questioned the very foundations of everything you now believe. And I mean everything. Don't stop. Keep going. Question, question. Question the very foundations of everything you now believe. This is not you. It's not me. It's not you. Question who you are, where you appear to be, all of the foundations of everything that you've been taught and conditioned to believe. Raise them to questioning. In other words, bring them to the light. Bring illusions to truth, and truth will shine them away. That's what we're invited to do. Happily, because this can seem utterly perplexing and confusing to us, we have a guide. We have our inner teacher. Now, the Holy Spirit is known by many names, even here in the Course itself. It's known as the answer with a capital A, the voice for God, most commonly, the Holy Spirit, communication mechanism, mediator, comforter, all kinds of different names. Now, you may call the Holy Spirit whatever you want. What is directly relevant in all of this is not the name or names that you call it, but your relationship with it. You're turning over your entire experience to it. People are commonly afraid or highly skeptical that in doing so, in giving our entire experience over to our inner teacher for guidance, that we're ceding our precious and tightly guarded power and control over to an outside agent, to an outside power. There is nothing outside you. Remember, the Holy Spirit goes by the name in this video series, inner, inner teacher. Our teacher is part of our mind. That part that looks right past all of our illusion, our BS, and our psychotic drama to the truth, and will teach us to do exactly the same if only we let it. We have the answer, capital A. Are we ready to accept it? A really good question always comes up here. It's quite common, and perhaps you've asked yourself, or perhaps you've asked someone else this question is, well, if the Holy Spirit's so powerful, if God's really all powerful, why doesn't he just wipe the slate clean for me? Do it for me. And that's a common enough question. Well, the real answer is deeper than you might imagine. The Holy Spirit does not force. He waits patiently for you to change your mind. God does not force. Despite being all power, the all, capital A, and reality, the only reality, he doesn't force us to wake up. We are not cajoled or prodded. We're not whipped and led kicking and screaming, though it may feel like that from time to time. We're not led kicking and screaming to our awakening against our will. This is our will. God is our will. Our will and God's will are, in fact, one and the same. God can't make you turn to him. He cannot force you to do that, or he would lose his identity, which is impossible. If God were to lose his identity, you would lose your identity, capital I. If you're thinking what you might be thinking, yes, the verbal math, yeah. God can't force us and won't force us to turn to Him nor to turn to our inner teacher. That would be creating a separation. There is no separation of any kind. If God were to force us, He would lose His identity, which is impossible. But here's the relevant point. If He were to lose His identity, we would lose our identity. If He were to lose His identity, we would lose our identity. Who are you? Where are you? What are you? Yeah, let that sink in. If you've heard it before, let it sink in. Again, there's a reason why you're paying attention amidst all of the content out there on social media to this very message today, for sure. You know who you are deep down. You do. You know what you are and where you've always been. Now, the ego wants to run amok with this realization, this deep realization, which I hope you're willing to bring to light, top of mind. The ego wants to assume that it is God. It is nothing. There is no separation of any kind, and the ego is the idea, the very idea of separation, which in fact is impossible, which makes this thing that we're on, this spinning ball of rock, makes this thing a dream. It's nothing. It's not who we are. And we know this, you know this deep down. You could choose not to acknowledge it and deny this and question, again, question the truth and veracity of what appears to be coming out of the communication device, which I remind you again is simply an image on your screen. If you're picking up a double entendre in that, yeah, everything we see here in the world with the body's eyes is illusion. We've been conditioned to think that it's reality itself. It is not, and we know this. God is the creator. We are the created, the Son of God, singular, the Christ, the thought of God, the extension of God, and like extends like. God extends himself. Love extends itself. Love does not extend division and hatred. It does not know of division and hatred. It's incapable of even conceiving division and hatred. Let these deep and profound ideas sink in. You may have a couple of reactions to this. One, abject denial, and that's fine. Or you may have a sense of a deep sense of comfort, or perhaps a profound relief, as though a light has gone on. That's quite common. This is something that you've always known. It's why we're interested in spirituality in the first place. Because deep down, in a manner of speaking, we all want to get back home. Well, here's something that you may find comforting and mind blowing here in the world. You're already home. This world is not our home. We're safely at home in God, dreaming of this wild spinning ball of rock and war and past due bills and all of that stuff. It's nothing. Now, we're invited to continue with what passes for our normal life, our job, our home, relationships, things like that. It's highly possible to continue to prosper and thrive here in the world in every way that you're now prospering and thriving, if you are, to the extent that you are. You don't have to give any of that up and let it go and shave your head and run off to the Himalayas to become a monk or a nun. That is not required of you. Now, if your inner teacher suggests that you do it and repeatedly suggests it, great, that's one thing. But what we do is we continue to show up here in the guise of human being and live our normal lives. Bring the light of the Holy Spirit, our inner teacher, to our brother. Share love, forgive the Son of God. This looks like a middle-aged man from Arizona. It's a form to which we can relate. That's all. People need you and your showing up here in the world to relate to without fear, without being plunged into an existential crisis, because another thing that the Holy Spirit does not do, besides not forcing, and God doesn't do without our being ready for it, is blinding flash appear and freak us out and plunge us off an existential cliff. That's why most of us, almost all of us, as it turns out, appear to have a gradual program of awakening, a process, in other words, that appears to take time. That's what time is for us to awaken, for us to turn over everything to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's guidance may seem deeply limited here in the world. It's because we've limited it. Again, we're invited to bring it all to Him. You've heard, and I know for a fact that the last video mentioned this, many of them do, that forgiveness is either total or it's not at all. This is an idea that runs throughout A Course in Miracles. Forgiveness is either total or it is not at all. In other words, we can't reserve certain little special forms of hatred. We can't love 99.9% of people in the world and save a special hatred and disdain for that 0.1%. Our abusive ex, for example, or our boss that we want to get away from. Maybe it's a group of people like the opposition political party. I often use politics as an example of the ego at play. I mean, what better place to look and really see front and center the defining and defending of personal territory? All of it a complete made up illusion. Just saying. So we appear to find ourselves here, but let's emphasize what's really going on. Appear to find. Deep down, you know that what we're saying here is the truth, or you would not be paying attention at all. And you're free to turn this off. I mean, we have free will to choose to run and hide or to accept truth just as it is. And if we run and hide, the Holy Spirit doesn't force us. He simply waits for us to change our mind and let Him in. Acknowledge truth. Let truth be just as it is. Ask your inner teacher for guidance. That's what it's there for. You'll find that He's given His help, His aid, His assistance already, and that all of our issues, our deep dilemmas and problems have already been solved. He's already solved them. We simply have to acknowledge this. The past does not bind the Holy Spirit, so it doesn't bind you. Holy Spirit's part of you, remember? He looks right past illusion. It's done. We're simply waking up to that. The past doesn't bind you. The past does not exist. So, in this day to day, moment to moment practice of true forgiveness of the Son of God, which constitutes the practical essential of A Course in Miracles, we, moment to moment, release all of our illusions, whatever's in front of our face. We release it, we forgive and release it to our inner teacher. We let the answer be known because it's done already. We're simply waking up to that. The past doesn't bind us at all. There is no past. The Holy Spirit has already freed each and every one of us from the past. Therefore, his accomplishments are ours. His accomplishments are yours. Don't forget your identity. Yeah. We have only to accept them. So, my hope in offering this discussion today is that you allow yourself to take these ideas and let them percolate in your mind. Let them kick around and dance around in there. It's said throughout A Course in Miracles that all the Holy Spirit requires is just a little willingness, a fraction of a second, in fact. So, to the extent that you're able to give even a fraction of a second to your inner teacher to entertain these deep and powerful ideas that deep down you do know to be true. Deny them all you want. Truth is true. It doesn't go anywhere just because we think otherwise. Just because we throw a veil over our eyes does not make the light untrue. It's still there. Want to see it? Well, quite naturally, only you can answer that. Another thing that's directly relevant to our study and practice of A Course in Miracles is the simple fact that, well, we've got to bring all of our darkness to the light. It's an adult endeavor. So this requires honesty, 100% honesty on our part, and it requires an adult sense of responsibility. Because we're not victims of the world that we see. We haven't been plopped in here by a cruel and unloving deity. Now, it's an illusion, a dream from which we're awakening. So I hope you join me. All right. So that said, questions and comments are, in fact, inevitable. If you've got questions, please feel welcome to leave them. This is intended, by the way, this discussion thread here on YouTube is intended as a safe forum to do just that, where you may ask the questions that you happen to have, and I will respond to them. Now, if you have not yet subscribed, I'd love to have you do so. Here's the prompt in the corner of your screen. When you click that, you'll be invited to join us. And when you subscribe, and I'd love to have you do that, you'll see several videos each week. By the way, if you're already subscribed and you want to be notified every time a new video drops, there's that bell icon on YouTube that controls your notifications. So you could choose to be notified if you wish. Okay. Thank you, as always, for tuning in here. And, well, yeah, give your inner teacher that even fraction of a second today. Anytime you remember to do it. All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.